Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to day 3 of IDW Virtual 2020. Our first session this morning will be focusing on bottom of the barrel market overview, and we have 2 presentations. Our first presentation comes from Laszlo Boda, who is Refinery Upgrade Project Director at INA Grupa, and his presentation will focus on the challenges and expected benefits from the current major RUP DCU in Rijeka refinery. Very interesting presentation, looking forward to that. And our second presentation of the session comes from Stratus Advisors. It's Natalia Mukova, who is analyst for Europe and the CIS, and her presentation will focus on marine bunker fuel oil market outlook. So like previous days, at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A sponsored by IPCO. So prepare your questions and send them in. So a warm welcome to our presenters this morning, and we look forward to hearing their presentations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Well, it's a very exciting experience for me, and thanks to the organizers to provide me this opportunity to be here online and present the project in Rijeka refinery, its challenges, and all the expected benefits from it. So let's start with a very short agenda. So just to recap what I will be talking about. First, I will have a very short introduction of our company, INA. For those who don't know us, just to give an overview of the company's business activity. After that, I would like to have a bit more detailed introduction about downstream business and our strategic directions, because this will strongly relate to our project in Rijeka refinery. And then, of course, the main body of the presentation will be about the project itself, mostly the technical challenges, and how we expect to execute this very important project for us. So my first slide is about the INA Group overview. So as we are a vertically integrated oil and gas company, it's not surprising probably that we have 3 major legs of the business. The first one is upstream, the second one is downstream, and the third one is retail. Regarding upstream activities, we are mostly focused on our domestic Croatian onshore and offshore upstream activities. Regarding downstream, I would like to have a few more words about it, since this is the key business area for the project. We have 2 production sites within the downstream business. Both are located in Croatia. One is northern part in Sisak. It's a continental part of the country. And the other one is in Rijeka, which is a coastal refinery. Rijeka refinery has up to 4.5 million tons per year capacity, which is not fully utilized currently because the refinery site is not a fully modernized or a full conversion refinery. If we talk about a bit the market, our market position, so obviously we are the key players here in Croatia. We have more than 70% market share, but we are present in many other countries in the region. We are a strong players here in the southeastern Europe region. Regarding retail, we have more than 500 service stations in 4 different countries, and I'm proud to say that we have the biggest modernized retail network in the country. The company has a strong financial and stable financial background. We have around 3.5 billion USD annual revenues. But if we go further to the downstream part of the business, what I would like to highlight here that as the current structure of the business is not providing profitable and positive cash flow operation, we needed to launch a significant strategic restructuring of our business. And here where the project comes into the picture, because our project in Rijeka refinery is one of the key pillars, or actually the most important pillars of this strategic restructuring. What does that mean? So we will modernize our coastal refinery, Rijeka refinery. We will concentrate the crude processing there in Rijeka, and we will turn the production site to a very modern coastal refinery with very good market reach out. What we expect from this strategic restructuring is that on top of turning the business, the downstream business, to a much more profitable activity. And on the other slide, on the previous slide, you could see that from the negative cash flow area, we will bring our business to strongly to the positive side. How we will achieve this? It is summarized on this slide. So currently, we have actually two basic problems in the downstream business. One of them is that with the two refineries, we have an overcapacity, and based on that, a low utilization of the assets on overall level. The other problem is that we have a mismatch between the production capacities and the market demand, because none of our refineries are full conversion refinery. Therefore, we still have a significant amount of residue production, which we cannot process further. And here, where the Rijeka modernization will turn the business potential towards a much more profitable direction, because we will have residue processing capability. We will not need to import white products anymore, because currently the other problem is that, as I said, if we have a market demand mismatch, we need to import semi-finished and finished products to serve the market needs. After Rijeka is modernized, we will be able to run the whole refinery on a full capacity and with such yield structure which actually the market needs. On top of all this, there will be a next or a further economic benefit of the project, that after IMO 2020 regulation was implemented from the beginning of this year, we are constrained to sell our residues as a bunker or marine fuels on the Mediterranean market. Therefore, the feedstock optimization is very much limited currently with such configuration of the refinery. But after the modernization, we will have extra possibility to further increase our feedstock optimization, and we will be able to choose from a much wider basket of the different crudes available on the global market. So after this short introduction about the key benefits of the project, let me give you further details about the project itself. This slide summarizes the overall scope of the project. I will talk about all these elements later. My intention with this slide is that I just want to send a message, and I hope that it is visible from this slide, that it's a very complex project. By the way, this is the largest single investment in INA's history, and also currently the biggest and the most complex investment project in the whole country in Croatia. So here you can see the greenfield and the brownfield elements of the project. We have several items. We need to build actually half of a new refinery into another half of an operating refinery. I will show you a map where you can see that better in 1 second. The key indicators for the project is that the final investment decision was achieved end of last year. So we are still quite at the beginning in the project implementation. But right after the final investment decision, we selected our main EPC partner. And end of last year, we signed the lump sum turnkey contract with Kinetics Technology. This contract covers almost 90% of the entire scope. The capex budget which we have for the entire investment is $650 million US. And regarding the schedule, I will also have a bit more details about that. Here I just want to highlight that we will have 38 months for the project execution. It's quite stretched, it's very challenging. And after that, when we reach the mechanical completion, we will have another half a year for commissioning and startup. So the targeted end date of the project, when we expect smooth operation, is end of 2023. Here is the map which I mentioned to you. So here you can see that the investment and the new project elements are actually taking almost 60% of the current Rijeka refinery area. This is definitely one of the challenges that the refinery is tight. The places the place itself is not that much available for different construction maneuvering. So this is definitely requires a very precise schedule, a very strict follow-up of the activities, which we will see in these certain slides when I'm talking about the different action items. So in the upcoming few slides, I will just give a short intro about the different elements of the complete project. The first and the most important, obviously, is the residue upgrade complex itself. Why I'm saying it's a complex? Because on its own, it covers basically 3 different units. The most important one is the delayed coker unit. This is licensed by Bechtel. This unit will be supported with a sour water stripping unit and an amine regeneration unit. Here you can see on the right side, which I mentioned, that actually a very interesting challenge during the construction will be that how we will execute this type of construction on these terraces, because the delayed coker unit itself will be located on 3 different floors in the refinery. The height difference is roughly 20 meters between them. So this is going to be one of the key challenge which we need to couple with. The next item of the project scope is the coke port and the coke logistics system. Coke itself is not yet a product in the refinery, so we need to build up a complete new logistics system. It will have 3 different elements. One is the coke conveyor system. This is actually which transfers the coke from the coke pit all the way down to the coke storage area. This coke conveyor system will be absolutely closed, 660 meter long, and it will end with a silo solution coke storage system. We chose this silo system. It is not yet that much spread worldwide, but there are few such references already existing globally. The silo system is for us much more convenient regarding the place utilization, and also it's a better solution regarding environmental friendliness, and also it's a very high level technology. After the coke silo, we will continue our coke logistics system with building a completely new port for the coke, since we are planning to sell the product on the sea. The next item of the entire scope is the high voltage electricity supply system. So after the modernization, the refinery will have a much bigger, much higher electricity need. And for that, we need to build up a completely new high voltage electricity system. This part is not part of the kinetics technology scope. For this, we will conclude another 2 EPC contracts. One will cover the substations, the 110 and 35 kilowatt substations, and the other part will cover the power line, which we need to build up to make the connection between the high voltage system. Regarding the power line, just one interesting part is that we will have overhead transmission line as well and underground as well. And for that, we need to solve roughly 250 property right cases with the land parcel owners. After this high voltage electricity system, we will have a much better and much reliable supply, and also it will be much more cost effective, since the high voltage electricity unit price is going to be lower. And the last element of the entire project scope is the brownfield. Well, this is one of the most exciting, or one of the most challenging part of the entire investment, since it covers revamps of the existing units, capacity increase of the sulfur recovery unit, and it also covers million other activities all around the refinery, which is actually the outside battery limit construction part of the scope. We need to connect the new the greenfield and the new units into the operating refinery, so we need to connect the new system with the energy supply, the feedstock and the product storage system, the utility supply system, and so on. This will require roughly 230 tie-ins in several parts of the refinery. And as I said, also the hydrocracker unit will be revamped. Our existing hydrocracker unit will need to take further processing of some of the delayed coker unit streams. So that's why we need to revamp the unit. We will also make the unit capable to have much higher jet production than currently it is capable for. And the sulfur recovery unit, as I already mentioned, we will actually double the capacity of the current unit, since we will need that after the modernization. And this slide is mostly focused just to recap the timeline. As I already said, we signed the EPC contract for the execution end of 2019, with the effective contract date of January from this year. So I would say that although we are still in an early phase, but we have done a lot of things until now. So in the January-July period, we already obtained more than 70% of the required permits. By the way, we need 45 permits altogether, so it's also a challenge that the project requires a very complex permitting. Regarding engineering, we are roughly currently on the 30% readiness. Very soon we will have the first constructability study and also the first 3D model review. Regarding procurement activities, we are also progressing quite good. Regarding the long lead items, we already ordered almost all the long lead items. And on the site activities, we are also progressing. There are several different activities on site which are already ongoing. We demolished all the old units. We finished and completed the site preparation. We started the underground relocation for certain installations. And our expectation is that the civil works can start during this autumn. And the last slide is actually just summarizes the conclusions regarding the key challenges. I would not read it out loud, but I would just like to keep it for the Q&A session, since I already talked about all of them. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be here today and to present during this unique edition of the International Downstream Week 2020. And I'll be speaking to you on the marine bunker fuel oil market outlook. Very shortly about the company, Stratos Advisors is a global consulting and advisory firm that covers the full spectrum of energy industry, energy sector and closely linked industries. We provide both subscription services and also tailored solution for our clients in the areas such as integrated oil and gas, alternative and renewables, fuels market, or transportation and demand. My presentation is based, the findings of my presentation are based, first of all, on the implementation of the IMO 2020 regulation, which came into force as of January 1st, 2020, and limited the content of sulfur in marine fuel to 0.5%, as well as on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the demand and on the prices. So in this presentation, I will first look at the global marine bunker fuel demand outlook, then at the refining capacity additions, fuel oil price outlook, and at the end, I will summarize the key takeaways, and if we have still time, I will shortly talk about the implication of the COVID-19 pandemic on the demand and prices, and also on the compliance with the IMO 2020 regulation. So first slide, we'll start with the demand, global fuel oil demand. On this graph, we can see that global fuel oil demand decreased between 2018 and 2020 by approximately 6.6%. This is due to the COVID-19 pandemics. And currently, the demand reaches approximately 6 million barrels per day. Based on the graphs, we can see that bunkering industry represents approximately 50% of the total global fuel oil demand, and this trend should remain unchanged for upcoming years. With respect to marine bunker fuel demand, marine fuel demand decreased as well by 4%. This was also due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We can see the drop in the graph. The current marine bunker fuel demand is approximately 3.8 million barrels per day, while very low sulfur fuel oil, which is the compliant fuel with IMO 2020 regulation of 0.5 sulfur, represents approximately 2.5 million barrels per day, and marine gas oil represents around 750,000 barrels per day. We expect that the demand will come back on the track in upcoming months. From the regional point of view, it's the Asia-Pacific region where is the demand for bunker fuel concentrated. In 2018, it accounted of about 45%, and this trend is expected to continue also through 2020. Looking at the 2030 projections, we see with the red color LNG, which is becoming quite important fuel, an alternative fuel for ships, for bunkering industry in Europe. And in 2030, we expect that its share would be around 30%. The considerable share would be also in North America. For 2040 projections, which are not in the graphs, but our company has also the projection up until 2050, we expect the global bunker fuel demand to reach approximately 5.3 million barrels per day. We'll further continue with the refining capacity additions, which are quite closely linked to the production of barrels of fuel oil and the changes which are currently happening in the refining industry due to the IMO 2020 regulation. CDU capacity additions will be happening mostly in Asia Pacific, they will account for about 55% between 2020 and 2025. Looking more closely to the region, it will be China, India, Malaysia, and Vietnam, the countries where the CDU capacity addition will be happening in 2025. By 2025, and in 2025, we can see with the red color that almost 100% of the CDU capacity addition will take place in Asia. With respect to conversion capacity additions, on this slide we see that it's the hydrocracking which will be leading conversion capacity additions, and we expect this to reach to about 1.3 million barrels per day between 2021 and 2025, will be followed by mid-distillate hydrotreating additions. For global spare CDU capacity, indeed, we have some spare CDU capacity due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This reached approximately 19.1 million barrels per day, with Chinese spare CDU capacity accounting for about 6-7 million barrels per day, currently in 2020. In this graph, we see refining capacity and complexity. These are on this slide. Sorry, we have here two bubble graphs, which relate to global conversion and hydroprocessing to CDO ratios for 2020 on the left side, and for 2025 on the right side. It's the North America having the highest conversion to CDU and hydroprocessing to CDU ratio in 2020, and the trend will be moving towards conversion to CDU ratio in 2025, meaning in the right direction. It will be still North America with the highest conversion to CDU ratio, but by 2025 we expect also Europe having the highest hydroprocessing to CDU ratio. We'll stay in Europe and with the refining capacity and complexity. Based on this table, we see that European refineries, those most complex refineries with the Nelson Complexity Index of about 10, process 24% of CDU capacity. While comparing these numbers with from a global perspective, with the global refining sector, it would be approximately 127 the most complex refineries with a Nelson index of about 10, which process approximately the same share of the, which has the crude capacity. They are able to process approximately the same share. of the capacity. Blending of very low sulfur fuel oil is also a very important topic when it comes to the IMO 2020 and global marine bunker fuel oil outlook. Blending is one of the options for refiners to be able to provide compliant fuel with a 0.5% sulfur. However, this is not the option for all the refiners. For example, for topping refineries, this option will be quite limited, and they will have to choose another option in order to be able to produce compliant fuel. In this slide, as the IMO 2020 regulation is already in force, we see a certain trend, and the trend is that there is an increased demand for gas oil, FCC light cycle oil, and heavy cycle oil, and also hydrotreated oil in order to produce the very low sulfur fuel oil with 0.5 sulfur content. Fuel oil price outlook will be a last part of my presentation. Now on this slide, we see Singapore crack spreads, meaning these are price differentials between products refined in the Singapore market from Dubai crude. We see that the spread of high sulfur fuel oil and very low sulfur fuel oil is narrowing down. And this narrowing down will culminate in August 2021, according to our projection. Here we can see that the spread was high, the widest in December, at the end of December 2019, just before the implementation of the IMO 2020 regulation. On these two graphs, we see the differentials on prices between very low sulfur fuel oil and high sulfur fuel oil, as well as the development of the prices of compliant or discompliant fuel. The narrowing spread between these two fuels, between the prices, of these fuels, has definitely impact on refiners, which are discouraged or becoming discouraged to produce the very low sulfur fuel oil, as its production is no longer that profitable. It has also impact on the installation of scrubbers, as because of the extending payback times. And now we're coming to the end of my presentation. The main takeaways, which concerns the presentation, but not necessarily the implication of the COVID-19 pandemics, are the following. We learned that the bunkering industry represents approximately 50% of the total global fuel oil demand, as well as that as the Asia-Pacific region, which leads the CDU capacity additions, and that when it comes to conversion capacity addition, is the hydrocracking leading these additions, and we expect hydrocracking additions to reach approximately 1.3 million barrels per day between 2021 and 2025. I'll now go further. I'll continue with the slides. I'm going to finish. So we have a bit more time to look at the implication of the COVID-19 pandemic, first on demand and pricing, and then on the compliance with the IMO regulation. So based on the presentation, we understood that global fuel oil demand dropped by 6.6%, and that marine bunker fuel oil demand also dropped by 4%. This is between 2018 and 2020. We see that there is a trend with the high availability of gas oil in the market due to the demand destruction, and this forces the drop of price of very low sulfur fuel oil. Then the low price of VLCFO has impact for refiners who for whom the production of very low sulfur fuel oil is no longer profitable, and also for the installation of scrubbers because of extending payback time. However, we expect that the narrow spread between a very low sulfur fuel oil and a high sulfur fuel oil will remain narrow only in the upcoming 2 months, and then the trend will be a bit changing. And for the implication of the COVID-19 pandemic on the compliance with the IMO 2020, this is a kind of additional slide. We've seen some interruption on the routine stateful controls, mainly in the UK. We expect this be also happening in other ports, but it's not officially reported. Also from Asia, we heard that the China Shipowners Association has issued proposal requesting Chinese authority to suspend COX cap enforcement in the Chinese waters. And also we heard about serious delays related to the retrofitting of scrubbers. This is particularly for vessels for which the work was supposed to be done in Chinese shipyards. It was during the first wave of the pandemics, and there were many cancellation of orders due to the internal cost cutting within companies, and also relatively low price of very low sulfur fuel oil. And by this slide, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I'm open to any question after my presentation.